Hello and welcome. It is all for United. The morning period is over. It's time for us to look ahead anew once again to another game of football. That's the lovely thing about football, isn't it? It's cyclical. You can have a terrible, terrible day, but there's always another game just around the corner. And today we are looking, through the woods, into the forest, and ahead to Wednesday, where we have the FA Cup, the only bit of silverware that is left for Manchester United to have any hope for. So we have got a little panel joined together tonight to help us run through the rubble of the desecration of yesterday, and we're going to see what we can do moving forward. Just below me, as ever, we have got Mr. Andrew Wall sort of stepping in for Dan today, really, due to the fact that he simply can't be bothered this evening. Andrew, how are you?
Yeah, good. Got over the getting over the disappointment of yesterday and what I witnessed.
It's all right for you. You were doing really well. You had an easy day. I've had to go and watch my football team be 3-1 up at half time and lose 5-3. So I'm run out of football joy today, I'm afraid. But we shall see how we go. Yeah. And of course, back over here in the bottom corner, we have the OG himself, Mr. Stu Willie. How are you, sir?
There we go. We're getting myself sorted. Yeah, I'm good actually today. Yeah. Had a relatively quiet day with the family, so yeah, everyone's winning.
Well, there we go. That's good. That's what we like to hear. And today's special guest on our preview is Matt from Rogues Gallery. He is, of course, a Nottingham Forest fan, but we won't hold that against him because he's here to help us today to break down all of the joys from the Forest side. So how are you doing today, Matt? Thanks for joining us. He's muted. There you go. Try again.
Okay. I'm okay, but we've got our own struggles, haven't we? We've got FFP and all that sort of stuff to think about. So, yeah, there's a high anxiety level around here at the moment. So, hopefully Wednesday will be a bit of a light relief from that.
Well, there we go. A bit of light relief there. I think we're all up.
Might not be.
Without it's been, but we'll see how we get on. We'll see how we go. Okay, so we're going to dive straight into it, boys, because let's be honest, nothing else to talk about that's worth anything at the moment. Andrew, you were there yesterday. You've had 24 hours now to sort of calm yourself down, get yourself used to it. I've had a little scout about online, sort of seeing where things are in terms of pre-team news and that sort of thing. There's not a huge amount, other than the fact that we've got just 7 people out. And when I was looking for the Nottingham Forest ones, couldn't find a single person who was missing. So I'm sure Matt will talk to us about if there's anybody missing from there. But from the United point of view, still not looking great, is it? Still no Hoyland, Malacia, Mount, Martinez, Martial. That's 4 M's, by the way. Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw. Would you be expecting for Erikson to be putting the same team out as he did against Fulham and expect them to try and right the wrongs of that game? Or do you think he needs to make a couple of changes and try and see if we can get a better performance that way?
I think you might have to make 1 or 2 changes. I'm just, after yesterday's before, I'm just like, even though I just think like, because Rashford going through the middle, it clearly didn't work yesterday, and I'm just like, it just looks, like I say, I know him and Forson were like interchanging at times, but Rashford was going through the middle at most of the time, but just like, he weren't getting on the end of anything, and I'm just thinking, maybe moving Rashford back out to left, that's where he's best at, and go on actually on the right. But just McTominay, just let him start up top. I'm just thinking, we've got nothing to lose. He's like our leading goal scorer. Just give him the chance. Okay, people say he's best coming off the bench, but I just think, I think maybe that's probably the change I probably would make. I'm just thinking probably depends how Lindelof's doing, because he literally, as I said, he came off literally the last minute and was holding his car. So whether that's anything more serious, I don't know. So it could be a case we've got to fill that left back role again. So, but we definitely need to have a bounce back, because I think yesterday it was painful because we were down. We came back and then we had the initiative to finish it, but then got our hearts broken at the end. So it's just like all eyes are pointing, on the players and the manager as well. So just didn't find the solution yesterday, and we've got to find it pretty quick against Forest. And then now they lost, so they'll be wanting, to have a good game. And I'm just thinking, last time out at the City ground as well, they beat us. They'll be looking for another scalp against us and getting through to the next round of the FA Cup, which hopefully we don't let that happen to us.
Absolutely, Rush saying here that playing away might help us. You never know, it might. Stu, what do you think about it all? Obviously, we didn't have you on last night, so you haven't really had much of a chance on this channel to have your say on what happened against Fulham. But what would you change if you were being Erik ten Hag for the day? What do you think needs to change moving into this game on Wednesday? Because it is our only chance of success left this season.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's hugely stubborn, is Mr. Ten Hag. I absolutely think he's a great manager, and I advocate he stays with us. But he's got to kind of realise and understand that by going with a formation that people are well aware of the formation you're going to go with, it makes it easy for the opposition to line up. It really does. So good old Nuno will be there. He won't even bother working out our formation for Wednesday night because he knows how we're going to play. What we should have done against Fulham is mix it up a little bit. As good as Forson is, and Andy will tell you because he follows the youth, so he knows the quality that Forson possesses. We've got a dynamite under 18 coming through. We're very, very strong in the 18s. We've got a superb left back coming through in Almas, who's going to be a really, really solid addition to the squad in the next 18 months. And then you've got to look at what you've got in your main body of talent, and you've got to think to yourself, well, I tell you what, I'm going to mix it up here. I'm going to give Silva a bit of a headache because he's not going to know what I'm going to do. Instead of running, as Andy said, with Lindelof at left back, with Dalot at right back, Lindelof's played right back for Sweden on many occasions. Dalot's played left back for 14, 15 games when he was out in AC Milan, for example, and he's played left back 5 or 6 times this season for us. But sometimes you got to pull a bit of a ghost out of a bottle. And I advocated last week we should have put Anthony at left back. People were saying, "Oh, fuck all about football, blah 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 blah." But those are just armchair fans who don't understand football. And if we played Anthony at left back, we would have given their right winger something to think about, because their right winger would have come out thinking, "Fucking hell, it's Anthony's, and I'm going to have a fucking field day," not realising that Anthony's a winger anyway. Well, okay, I'll use that term just for the minute as winger. So when you are putting a left-sided player who could play attacking fullback against an established winger, so you've got established winger against established winger, it makes it more difficult to actually penetrate from an attacking point of view, because Anthony, in theory, should know where to play him, how to play him, when to step, when to move back, when to go in for the tackle, when to use the body, all sorts of things, because he's seen this throughout his entire career when he's playing winger against a fullback. And now people will look at me and I think, again, you don't know what you're talking about, but football is common sense. Football is using your brain first and your feet second. And you could have done, it could well have worked and it could well have backfired. But until you try it, you'll never know. And here's the thing about it all. We still lost the game. So it's kind of an irrelevance, in many ways. What else should he have done? He should have put 2 up top. I'm not saying we play a conventional 4-4-2, but what I'm saying is he should have played 2 focal points up top, not 3, and used Forson at position to accommodate Rashford through the middle, because Rashford through the middle, as we all know, is a bit of a non-starter in games. And so there's a few things that he could have done that may have got Fulham a little bit, what are we going to do here? Well, kind of wasn't expecting that. The other thing about it is you've got to sometimes, even if you're at home, you've got to put that extra body in the middle of the park. Andy talks about Bruno and this 10 or 15 yards gap between Bruno and Casemiro, or Bruno and Maino. We saw that again at the weekend. We saw the gap between Casemiro and Maguire and Varane. We saw that again because we're all out of shape in the middle. We're not reading the game. We're not looking at the game, from an on-field point of view. And so whether people agree with me or not, that's fine. Football's all about opinions, and I quite like that. But sometimes you've got to go rogue. And Andy's heard me talk about this all the time. You have to go rogue in football matches, whether that's a 50-50 challenge that leaves somebody on the deck, whether, you've got to give the opposition something to think about. And right now, Nuno, when we come to Wednesday, and Silva, when we appeared yesterday, got fuck all to think about. They know how we're going to set up. All Nuno's wondering now is who is going to be up top. That's all he's bothered about. He's not bothered about the formation. He's bothered about who is going to be there. And it shouldn't be that way. I've famously said formations are rubbish in football. They don't mean anything. They don't necessarily, because, the circumference of a football pitch hasn't changed in centuries. The goal sizes haven't changed in centuries. So it's all about the common sense of the starting 11, and I don't know, maybe Ten Hag needs to get his blinkers off and do something different for Wednesday, which is what I would do.
Says here, Stu.
You what? Sorry.
What do you think about what Rush says here? If Eric tries,
Eric
get crucified.
But here is the problem. You see, Ten Hag's got to think to himself, bollocks, tough. If I get crucified, I get crucified. Tough. You've got to do something. You have to do something. Life's all about making choices and smart choices. He's not making smart choices right now. But Rushman is right. He will get crucified. He will. But sometimes you gotta stand up for what you believe in. You got to stand up and think, right, this is what I am going to do now, and I'm going to make this statement. And if I lose, fine, I'll stand by that. But what if he wins?
Oh yeah, very true. What if he wins? Absolutely. If we don't get stuffed, he'll be lauded. So fair point.
So it's
there's the opposite. Good point. Well made, Stu. Like it. Nat, again, welcome to the channel. Forest looking to make the quarterfinals for the second time in the last 3 seasons, which is quite a thing because in the previous 30 before that, you'd only done it twice. So actually, it's quite a good run for Forest in recent times. Please help us out. Have you got anybody missing? Please tell me you've got at least 1 or 2. It can't just be us that's got a list of people.
No, we have got a few. We have got a few. We've got Chris Wood.
What sort of lineup are you looking for?
Well, Nuno's pretty much settled on his first choice team, I think, over recent weeks. Yesterday was all about Niakate playing at left back. It's funny you talking about a fullback. And it kind of backfired. I mean, everyone's saying, we should have picked Toffolo after all. He's a proper left back. Maybe not. But we'll see. But as far as the injuries go, we've got Chris Wood out. Tavares wasn't available yesterday and he would have played. And then we've got the 3 from AFCON who've come back. Aina, right back or left back. Sangare, who's an interesting one. And, of course, Bolly, who may or may not have played. The centre halves, well, right back's going to be Nico Williams. He's been our best player the last few games. He's been playing excellently, getting up and down the wing. We've historically, last season with Cooper, we played a lot of the time with 3 at the back. We've gone to 4 at the back this season. I think they wanted to be a bit more progressive. And Murillo's come in, been fantastic. Everyone sort of thinks, people like you are going to be trying to buy him for well over 50 million next season. But, we'll see. He's an incredibly good player anyway. He's hardly played in games. And then his partner, we had a guy, Bamadelli, who's hadn't played under Cooper at all, and he came in and did well for a few games. He got dropped for Niakate, and then he got dropped somewhat inexplicably for Felipe, who came back, who's played the last couple of games. But then bizarrely yesterday, when we had a very poor first half, we had 3 goals in 30, 40 minutes or something, they took off both the centre halves. The other thing actually is interesting also is the language thing, because they're both Brazilian, and we've had Danilo playing in midfield as well, as is another Brazilian, and which actually worked really well against West Ham the previous game. And actually we probably played our best game of the season performance-wise, and we got the result we wanted as well. The midfield, probably going to go with Danilo and Dominguez again, we've got Yates as a potential. Sangare could get a look in, because those injuries from those, I think, from the AFCON guys aren't a big deal. Wood's definitely out, but Tavares, I don't know. I haven't heard any news on him, so he could be back again. He just happened to be missing yesterday. It could be anything. I haven't heard what it was. So it's going to be those two as the two in front of the back four, GibbsWhite in front of him, and probably then HudsonOdoi and Elanga, who you've be familiar with, who's done particularly well for us, and just about stopped seeing the stats about how he's done more of note than all your lot put together for the last few weeks, as you've had a couple of them doing some of the business. And then we've got a 1 year up front, and he's a fixture, but we're having to kind of protect him. So, and then you've got like a Riggy, but we haven't got much up front. We're missing Wood, who's finally come good. So it's somewhat predictable. If some of those guys come back, I don't think like Einer's going to come back at right back. He might suddenly appear at left back. That's possible if Tavares isn't fit. If Tavares is fit, he'll play. The centre halves, I don't know. But I tend to think you'll probably get as close as we can to the team that we put out against West Ham, if we can do it.
Fair enough. So lots of people were shouting out at that particular point. So they're asking, obviously, is Wood out? The fact that he is
definitely, yeah,
he's one of being your top goal scorer there. He scored a hat trick, which is something that Manchester United players this season can only dream of, because we seem to get braces and then get taken off or not score anymore, which is a shame for them. But just to double check, Rushmano asking, GibbsWhite fit? So it seems like him and Elanga both okay.
Elanga's been hit and miss all season. He's done a lot of good stuff, but he's missed a few chances as well. So, but the good thing is he's been getting into the right positions. I don't know what your impression of him was, but he's a hard worker. He's committed, and he's very, very fast. But he's erratic in front of goal, sort of thing.
I'll tell you something, Matt. That's a very good question. Why don't we ask the two experts on the panel here, Mr. Andrew Wall and Mr. Stu Willie. Andrew, you would have seen Anthony Elanga in the flesh. What did you make of Anthony Elanga? Do you think he was, try and choose the right words again, was he a good player that we shouldn't have let go? Was it the right thing for him to go and get first team football? Do you think he's performing better at Forest than he did at United? What's your take? What's your hot take, Andrew?
I mean, when he first came through, he was really good, and I think he had like 1 or 2 injuries, and that could tell his form. And then when he was getting back in, it was just like, just couldn't find that form again. And then it was just like he's been a bit hit and miss, and then he was like being put on the bench and then coming on, and then I just think it just slowly went down the pecking order. Because then Garnacho came through and was like, he's got someone else in his way. So I think I think we're probably right to sell him, because I'm just thinking you don't want to deny a player that opportunity of getting game time. And I've seen bits of him at Forest, and he's been doing well there. So from what I've seen of him, so I think he's probably made the right move in terms of his career. But yeah, Elanga was like, as I said, I'm not going to deny somebody an opportunity. You can't just keep them there just for the sake of it. I know. We can only pick 11 players on that pitch as well. So it's like there's other players coming through that just got ahead of him, and fortunately just couldn't get back up to the speed of it. So, but yeah, it's one of those. But I'm glad he's on his feet at Forest now.
Hugh, your thoughts on Elanga? Somebody that we miss, or just another one of those brilliant new products that United produce that tend to go out and do well when we send them out into the world?
Yeah, he's the kind of enigma that Manchester United grow on a regular basis in terms of players who've got an ability, but for whatever reason, it doesn't kind of develop at Manchester United. I think if I was him, Axel Tuanzebe, Mengi, players of that kind of nature, Hannibal, Iqbal, I could go on really. These players should take a long, hard look at themselves first and foremost about why it didn't work out for Manchester United. Maybe did I get a little bit too comfortable with the salary that I was earning? Was the expectations of me not as great as, say, somebody like Garnacho coming through because they maybe seen a different type of player? And when you move to a club like, I don't know, Forest or whoever, then it gives you that lease of life. The shackles that you would have felt at Old Trafford have certainly been smashed off you, and you'll be able to become the player that you want to be. I always think if you get first team opportunities at Manchester United, you don't take them, then you're too weak mentally to be playing for a club of Manchester United's stature. There's no disrespect to Forest. Matt, I'm not going to go at Forest.
No, it's fair enough.
Because Brian Clough once famously said something very, very similar when you were winning European Cups. And when I think you tried to sign Gary Lineker when he was leaving Barcelona, he didn't see Forest as a particular club. Brian Clough said, well, I'm not interested in you. Don't give a damn. There's a famous, just recently released Formula One interview where Zach Brown says, if you can't spell Zach, I'm not interested. You don't get any foot near the door. And these are the types of things that elite football is all about. It's all about mentality, elite mentality. And we've had a number of players that haven't shown that elite mentality, that will to actually fight and scrap. We all watched the game when we lost to Forest a few weeks ago, when the game was finally balanced. And then all of a sudden, Morgan GibbsWhite decided he's going to go and kick 2 or 3 United players. And all of a sudden, it raised the game of Forest, because they've looked at, Morgan GibbsWhite and thought, right, if he's going to do it, I'm going to do it. And Forest started hunting us and pushing us and pulling us and kicking us, stuff of that nature. And we don't have that about us. And so Alanga, unfortunately, was quite a big, strong, powerful guy. Never used any of his attributes, let alone some of his attributes, to really pull him into this great player I think he will turn out to be. He's only young. I actually think he'll do well for Forest. I think it was a great signing for Forest. I think 15 million or whatever you paid for him, 12 million, I think was too low. Hey, Mark, I think was too low. But then that should tell you all you need to know about his mentality and his inability to push on at Manchester United. So that's how I look at it. I think it's a great signing for Forest. Morgan GibbsWhite, the 40 million you paid for Wolves, again, I thought it was great value for money. Forest themselves have had hits and misses throughout their 2 years, 3 years of I don't know, 50 players that have come and gone within that time period. I lost count. And everyone's searching for that magic formula of a settled team. For me, I love the FA Cup. I grew up on the FA Cup. I loved everything, and I still love everything there is about the FA Cup. But for me personally, I think should bin it Wednesday night and focus on the league, because I think we've got to make a decision. Do you want to go for the cup, or do you want to go for the league? We haven't got the squad to do both. We know this. It's blatantly obvious, so we have to make that decision. Again, it's no disrespect to Forest, but right now, if we were to go there and get a victory, we've got, bearing in mind, fellas, we pick up any kind of injury on Wednesday with City coming up on Sunday. And you've got to think, you have to think that far ahead in professional football. You've got to be thinking about this all of the time.
I still maintain we need to balls up the drainage system at Old Trafford and see if we can get it waterlogged, see if we can get it off for the weekend. I don't know if my heart can take it, but we'll see.
We'll see. I mean,
you were talking about Chris Wood being out, and you mentioned Anthony Alanga. Would you say that he is going to be your main goal threat moving into this game on Wednesday? He's obviously got 5 so far this season. Awoniyi has got 6, but Chris Wood's your main man. Would you say, you heard what the boys have said about Alanga, would you agree with that? And do you think, therefore, he is the pointy end of your knife?
Well, actually, HudsonOdoi's been the one on form the last few weeks. You tend to get one of them chipping in, and for us, you're talking about your own issues at the top of the league. We've concerned a little bit about relegation, especially with the potential, any size you like, point deduction coming up. So we've got kind of similar issues, and we're protecting Awoniyi, who I would say, Awoniyi is our main goal threat. He's obviously missed a lot of the season as it is, but I think his stats, he's actually converts more chances than anyone in the whole league. which is somewhat surprising, as half the time he doesn't really look like he's ever played football before. But he's a powerful guy, can hold up the ball, and without him, we play a completely different game. Yeah, Chris Wood was awful for us last season. Was an incredibly expensive signing, and I didn't think he'd do what he's done this season. But fair play to him. I think he was carrying an injury which last season, which makes it even more daft the amount of money we paid for him on a sort of 1.5 year contract. But he delivered something this season at least. But again, he's got injured, and he's out like for 4 plus 6, 7, 8 weeks sort of thing. So he's well and truly out. So he's not going to play many games, and we're going to end up having spent virtually £1 million a game on the blokes. So it's a lot of money for someone at that age who you've got no sell on. So personally, Hudson, well, all of them. I mean, it's important for us, and to be honest, when in the Cooper era, the forwards weren't involved a lot. We gave away about 60, 70, 80% of the ball, and we didn't worry too much about the other end of the pitch. But in recent times, a lot of the good things that have been going on have been amongst those 4. So all of them, and GibbsWhite's very important, and he's played his best football for us since Nuno's been here. I don't know why, but he seems to have finally got his teeth into it. So, I'd personally watch out for HudsonOdoi more than Elanga, but they're all capable of it, and they all have their moments. But we'll be protecting Awoniyi. I expect you'll see he'll only play 60 or 70 minutes probably anyway.
Yeah, no,
and then we've got Origi.
Very true indeed. So, listen, Andrew, we've had some very interesting results over the course of the whole season, really. It's been up and down. Obviously, we played against Forest in December at the City Ground. We lost, which was no fun. Although we did beat them at Old Trafford eventually. We got there. If we win this game on Wednesday, fun fact was, so we're going to try and bring some joy and positivity back to the United fans. If we win this, we will reach the quarter-final for a record 48th time. We're currently joint with Everton with 47. So if we win it, we'll be record breakers again. But these are the sort of positive things we want to hear, aren't they? Not all this, we could go out, it could be terrible. It just reminds us that we still have pedigree when it comes to this competition.
Yeah, it does, and I just think it's nice to say, well, sort of, been record rate wise, this Old Trafford this season, it seems records have been tumbling, opposition teams winning against us, and I just think it's nice to be that does happen. Talking about United in a positive, like after yesterday, everything's United, everything's amplified to the nth degree. It's a crisis, it's this, it's that. I'm just like, oh, you hear online or through the radio, it's like, oh, we want Ten Hag out, we want this to happen, we want that to happen. It's just like everyone just have to get. I think watched Match of the Day last night. I think even Mika Rich is saying, United just need to get back to what they're doing best, and just like things will come good again. It's just like you can't, be, after one, defeating like the last 5 games, it's like everything's, throw everything up in the air. So we've got to be a bit wary on Wednesday, because like I said last time out at the City Ground, like I say, our defensive frailty is costing us, and hopefully he doesn't do it again, because I just think Morgan GibbsWhite was like one of the star players there last time. I'm just worried about him. He's going to be well up for it again and wanting to be on the winning side again. But I'm just remembering from that game, it wasn't much to write home about, because we literally didn't have, I don't think we hardly had any shots on target besides the goal we actually scored. And it's just like, we need to be starting. I know before we lost yesterday, we were starting to, the attack started to fire, but it just seemed the front three we put out yesterday was a bit disjointed. And so I'm just thinking, I said earlier, Ten Hag might decide to change it, but he might decide to go for the same front three in the hope that they, develop some sort of relationship. So you think, from his point of view, it makes sense in that way. But it just, the way we were yesterday, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, and it's hard to fix it in a couple of days. So The same with like Anthony as well. He's had his chances to cement his place, but they brought him on in the last minute as well. And I'm like, well, what does that say? I think he might just decide to select Ahmad instead of Forson. So it's still going to be a young front three, but it's a challenge for Ten Hag as well to work out, who starts at the City ground, and also sort with one eye on the game on the next weekend against City. But yeah, I'm just positively saying more optimistic. So I'm just hoping we go and get the result, and just gives us that little bit of confidence, going into getting through the next round, but also the derby away at the Etihad. So we need some positivity going into that as well.
Yeah, some good points there, Andrew. Just drop back quickly to something that NT asked that I started earlier on. Initially, I saw Rasmus be out 3 games. That's still the case. That's roughly what we've been told. There's been no new news on that. So we are still expecting him to miss this game and the City game for sure. But to be fair, he did say, old Eric, 1, 2 or 3 weeks. So he's definitely hedging his bets there. So who knows? He could be back for City. Depends. I think it depends how badly he needs him, will be the answer to that question. I wanted to ask you a question, Stu, based on something that your internet wife has asked you here. Not just you specifically, she's asked everybody, to be fair. She's asked, does Bruno need a breather? Now, I've been frantically typing away, trying to get some info about Bruno Fernandes. And listen, we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to Bruno Fernandes this season. We've seen he had more roles than Greg's in that match against Fulham. It was a bit of a shame to see. But despite that, he is still probably our most creative player in the midfield in terms of creating chances and doing all those sorts of things. Looking at the FA Cup, he has scored 5 in his last 5 FA Cup games, including scoring in the last 3 consecutive games. Do you think Bruno Fernandes needs a breather? And if so, who would come in to replace him?
Yeah, Bruno's a difficult one because, he plays on occupancy and on any particular area of the pitch. So the pitch that he occupies is the 9 times out of 10 that's will play the ball into that kind of segment, that quadrant where he occupies. So his occupancy area. Do we necessarily need to do that? No, because a lot of the time you're playing to the final third when ideally you need him in the middle of the pitch. If you don't have him in the middle of the pitch and you play him in the final third, you tend to have this 10-yard gap elongated and stretched. And that's a big issue for us because once you get that turnover of possession, which unfortunately Bruno tends to do, that's when we're chasing the game. So the quick turnover, Bruno's out of position, everyone else is out of position, and that's when we're chasing the game. That's what happened. Andy will tell you this is what happened against Fulham all the time. The tenacious Iwobi or whoever was in the middle at that particular time was snapping and snapping and snapping, winning the ball, bang, you move it quickly. So you're all out of position. So that's his problem. Vicky's absolutely right. He needs a breather. You've got to have a bit of stones in football management. You've got to take him out of the equation. You have to. For the good of what we're trying to do and what we want to achieve, I don't think he's kind of, and it isn't just Bruno, by the way, Rashmani, you're absolutely right. I don't think he's given us what we need right now, Bruno. The issue with taking him out of the equation, though, is he does have that tendency to have that little bit of magic that can unlock a defence and twist the game for us, but we're not getting enough of that. And that's the issue right now. But what do you do if you take him out of the equation? You can't bring Mason Mount in because the ghost himself gets seen coming out and signing autographs. We haven't seen him in a football pitch in weeks, months. Erikson, we all forget that 18 months ago, 2 years ago, Erikson was on his deathbed. We all forget this, and we're all moaning as a fan base that Erikson can only do 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes. That's all he's got in his legs. But I think you play Erikson as a 10 anyway, as a replacement for Bruno, and you'd get a better output from him. But he would only need to play that, maybe that 15, 20 yards from the halfway line from a creative point of view. So he's about 40 yards out from the goal line, 20 yards out. So he's in the middle of the pitch. And then you could utilise his guile and his cuteness to maybe unlock Forest. The problem you've got is who protects around him. You can't rely on Garnacho to protect him. We know we can't rely on Rashford. It's unfair to rely on Forson. Maino can help because Maino can step forward when he needs to, and then he can receive the ball off of Erikson. And we know that the Maino's got the ability to deal with it. And it's all about when you get the ball, what you do with it. For me, again, we've got to mix it up against Forest. I wouldn't play with the 3 up front. I might play with a single focal point, actually, at Forest, because we've got to win that midfield battle again. We've got to start taking control at the middle of the pitch. And until we do that, whatever happens with our wider players, whatever happens with our striker, whoever it may be, it's very difficult to have the turnover, add that to the speed of play that we need to get in behind it. But exactly. You know, Jarvis is, I mean, me and Jarvis have spoken about this a lot. We'll be discussing it on Barry, if you don't mind me saying, MEFC Realist TV tomorrow night. If you want to tune in, guys, we'll be discussing just that, because it's that area that Ten Hag doesn't want. But my argument has always been, Baz, and you know this, is, well, I'm on here. I can see what's going on. I can see what's unfolding around me, Gaffer. So I'll talk to you at half time, but I'll do what I need to do to become an asset in this team and an asset on the game. And we don't do that. And I go back to the Morgan GibbsWhite. The game was fizzling out a little bit between Forest and Man United until he makes that tackle, those 2-3 tackles, almost a foul, gets aggressive, takes a card for it. All of a sudden, it's all changed. We haven't had a player of that ability to be able to come in, put a real reducer in on somebody and change the game. Because we all know as football fans, we all know when we stand in the crowd, somebody pops a reducer in, everybody go, fucking yes, that's what we need. Let's see some aggression, and it lifts the individual, lifts individuals around you. So in answer to Vicky's question, the lovely wife, absolutely. Big kiss to you, sweetheart. Absolutely. He does need a break. We haven't got the balls to take him off because he's captain. And he does need a break. I would give Varane the captaincy on Wednesday. I would take him out. And again, this is no disrespect to Forest, but we've got a decision to make. Ten Hag has a decision to make, and I think it's this game on Wednesday is critical and pivotal to us. It really is so pivotal to where we will finish up at the end of the season. I can't emphasise that enough. I really can't. To Forest, and I take your point, by the way, Matt, about the points to do, but you can't worry about that. You just can't worry about it. You just got to get on and play. But you're in a position where, yes, you need to pick up points in the league, but whatever happens with that is going to happen, isn't it? There's nothing you can be able to do about it. Everton have proven this. So you've got something to actually grip. You've got something you can tangibly grip. And that is getting into the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, maybe Wembley. And I get that, but we've got a bigger issue to deal with than the FA Cup. And that is, for me, and you won't know this, Matt, I'm 54 years old, and I went to Man United when I was 7 years old against Wolves away. That was my first ever game. I love the FA Cup. I was bored up with the FA Cup, more than anybody. So for me to say Wednesday's not essential to us, it's tough. I haven't taken that decision lightly, but you've got to look at it from where we need to be and how we're going to get there. Because as I said before, and Barry, you've mentioned it, Andy's mentioned it, if we pick up one injury to Varane, to Maguire, to Dalot, to Mino, what do we fucking do? Please tell me. Somebody tell me, what do we do? So that's my opinion. As I said, Matt, I'm not having a pop at Forest.
The answer is we play the under-18s. That's what everybody tells me every time we start talking about that.
There's two clubs with two very different ideas of what Wednesday means, in my opinion. I mean, I'll be interested in your thoughts, Matt, what you think.
I am going to come back to that bit about you mentioned us going out, and I am going to come to Mark in a second with Matt with his question. Mark's the one who I'm going to talk about, because Andrew, I just wanted your take on the Bruno Fernandes thing. There is a lot of chat about Ahmad at the moment in the comments. I've got to be honest, Mark, I think it's a little bit harsh. The guy came on for 10 minutes. He's not really had a huge amount of time before that to do anything. I think he should have come on earlier rather than sticking Bruno out on the right-hand side. And maybe he would have had a chance to put a bit more of an impression on the game. But yeah, just a brief answer on Bruno. Does he need a breather, and who would you replace him with if he does?
I just think with Bruno at the moment, yeah, he's been one of the players, the spotlight's fallen on, the team's gone through a poor run and difficult time. Yes, people question his captaincy and, some of his performances, but he's probably one of the players that's most likely to make things happen in this United side. He's regularly tops the list, attacking and creating that output. But we probably are relying on him. But, if we didn't have Bruno on the side, things could have, since he arrived, things could have been a lot worse without him. I mean, yeah, he's very vocal and emotional on the pitch, and, can rub probably a few people up the wrong way, but I think he shows that he cares as well. You don't want somebody who's just going to be like a robot. It just, whether he's a good captain or not, that's another debate in itself. But I just think, we just maybe beyond Bruno's physical capacity, and he plays so often, it's just, we probably have relied on him since he's arrived, and so if he was to miss, or be put on the bench, or say he was missed a prolonged period, who would fill that role, being a reliable creator for us? And I'm just trying to think who would that be. So could Mason Mount fill that role? When he finally gets in, can he just be the one?
Mason who? I mean, sorry to butt in, but he's an absolute disgrace of a footballer. Get yourself fucking fit, for fuck's sake. Stop dicking about on Instagram and fucking TikTok or whatever you're doing. Get yourself fucking fit.
I'm sure he's trying to, but as I say, with Mason Mount,
sorry, Andrew. Sorry.
Yeah, when he finally comes back, it's almost like it will feel like a new signing, because we haven't seen him all season because he's had 1 or 2 games and then been out. So he was the one that said he was going to come in and he can sort of take much of the burden off Bruno, and I'm just like, you can give Bruno a bit of a rest during games, because even when Bruno's been on the bench and during some games, I'm trying to think, there was a particular game we had to bring him on, and because we knew we needed some creativity and some output, and he was the one to deliver it. So even when he's on the bench, we're having to rely on him to come off and do something for us. So we're just going to find a similar sort of player like him that can, interchange with. So we're not relying just on one player for that creative output.
Fair points. Matt, a couple of questions for you. We'll start off with this one first, which is one that Vicky asked a little bit earlier on. What is going on with the Nottingham Forest investigation, and do you think points are going to be deducted? So we'll just take a brief break from the FA Cup just to answer that question. What are your thoughts, and what do you think, especially based with everything that's gone on with Everton?
Well, we're waiting for the Everton appeal to sort of be settled and decided, and then hopefully we're going to hear. We've been kind of told that was going to happen last week or the week before, and it seems to have dragged on, and there's a conspiracy. They were waiting till we both had away games before they announced it. Personally, I don't know why they don't say what the punishment will be if it's applied now, because nothing's going to change. They've decided this has happened. It should be like, right, you're going to get so many points. People seem to think it'll be 6 or 10 points, something of that order. Who knows? I'd love them to give us a transfer embargo or something like that. They would do us a favour, probably. I don't know. I expect we'll find out immediately. Everton find out about their appeal. I've heard things that Everton are going to get 5 points back and then 5 points taken off, or something stupid like this. Who knows? Lots of experts have said this and that and the other, and I think they're going to make it up as they go along. And it wouldn't surprise me if they're kind of hoping we get enough points, which isn't very likely at the moment because we've got a few tough games coming up, get enough points so they can punish us without hurting us. You know what I mean? it will be very contentious if it's close at the end and they either take off just enough to get us relegated or just not quite enough to let us stay up. Personally, I don't know why there's any of this comes into it, and I'd do it the other way around. If they want to have fair play, let the teams at the bottom spend the most, maybe have a wage cap, draft and all this kind of stuff, turn it arse on tit and make it really competitive, and let Luton have all the money and Man City have none, sort of thing. So, well, you've got your own.
I can't have you saying that about Luton.
It'll make it interesting, though, wouldn't it? But anyway, so yeah.
We're okay now, Matt. We're all right, actually, Matt.
You are that with this what's happened. Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah.
Profit now to keep ourselves out of it, but we've made so many mistakes, letting Reguilon's loan run out instead of extending it, pushing out younger players on loan, in positions that we need right now. Not having the ability to bring in a striker even on loan in January, as opposed to what we wanted to do in the summer, and it's made Ten Hag's game very, very difficult. He's not been here enough to. I think Mark made a great point, actually. He's talking about Klopp winning today, and everyone's Klopp's kids and all this kind of bollocks. When Ten Hag hasn't had that time to really develop it. Klopp's been at Liverpool for something like 9 years, hasn't he? He's had this time to oversee and develop a youth system. We don't have this at Manchester United at the moment. It's the same with Forest. The path, if you're a youth player at Forest at the minute, the path to your first team is it's a brick wall right now, because you keep buying players, and somewhere along the line, somewhere it's got to stop. Somewhere clubs have got to make a decision. Do they want a youth? I remember years ago, and Barry, correct me if I'm wrong here, Brentford adopted a very similar attitude. Am I right in saying disbanded their youth system? I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did because they couldn't see the value, of a youth system. Now, they're not being particularly hamstrung by that at the moment, because Brentford know where they are and understand where they are. Forest are a very difficult club, in as much as they've seen loads of success under Clough and Taylor to mediocrity over the past few years.
23.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, but a youth player at Forest at the moment, if you're a youth player at Forest, you're only there to get a move to somewhere where you can break into the first team, or you're there to take what money's on offer. You've done your financial calculations and realised if you even played in the reserves for 10 years, you'd be okay when you came out of it the other end, because of the finances that there are at the moment. For us at Manchester United, we're not even selling our youth players with any value. As much as people revere our youth system, we're not selling our youth players with any value. So both clubs, for us, in particular us, are in a right state in terms of where we actually do go in the summer and what we do in the summer. If, for what it's worth, for FFP, I'm kind of on the fence with it. I don't agree with it, but I don't think anybody understands it, if I'm being honest. You probably, as a fan, when Forest were doing all this trading, probably thought to yourself, there's no way we've got enough income to supplement what's going on here. Same with Chelsea, same with Everton to an extent. Whereas us, we've got the income. So we're not quite sure why we're on this thin line, whether it's salary, whether it's debt, whatever it is, nobody really knows. And you see City doing what they're doing, and people are just a little bit bemused and perplexed as to why they're chucking a buck at Forest and Everton when they really should be focusing everything on. But whatever they do, by the way, whatever they do to you and Everton will have a huge reflection on what they do with City. So City will be hoping you guys get away with it scot-free, because if you don't, then City are clearly going to be in some kind of trouble. Because out of those 115 charges, 10 have got to stick, haven't they? Come on, 10 have to stick.
I'd be quite surprised if they didn't. I very rarely wield my power here, Stu. But if
or old and Luton
stuck together again in the chat here, and you will be sitting on the naughty step yourself. That is absolutely disgraceful behaviour. Matt, the next question I wanted to ask you was, again, looking ahead to the game on Wednesday. In the last 5 FA Cup games that you've had against us, you have made it through and beaten us in 4 out of the last 5. But the bad news for you is that the 1 in 5 that you didn't is the most recent. Takes us all the way back to 1989, 1990, which explains why most of us can't remember the fact that you progressed in 4 of the 5 before then. I wanted to ask you what you feel as a Forest fan. Is there anything you're particularly worried about with Manchester United, with whether it be our attack? Is there places you think you can exploit? What do you see happening on Wednesday? Do you see a good chance for the Forest to make that 5 in 6 or not?
Well, I'm old enough, talking about pivotal games, to remember the Mark Robbins goal.
Oh yes,
that was pivotal. I've had nightmares about that for many a year, because I grew up with decades of you winning everything under Fergie, and that could have all been different but for that header. And I think we should have won that game, so that would have made your stats look even worse. So it's a pivotal game. I think it will be a competitive game. As a general theme, I think we tend to win the games on the wings. So if we're going to be successful, it will be down the wings. Our midfield is a bit of a concern. I don't know whether you've noticed we had a guy called Mangala, who was an outstanding player, probably our best player, aside from Johnson and GibbsWhite and so forth. But Mangala was a seriously important player, most technically gifted player in the team, and we've let him go, which is bizarre, probably looking forward to FFP for next year or whatever. And potentially because of that, I'm nervous about our midfield. Our midfield is very held together with strings. So Bruno is a major concern. He's always a problem against us. Often we feel like he's the difference, especially when you're at our ground, and we give everyone a decent game at the City ground. You get that atmosphere you're talking about going, and we're competitive. Even if we get beaten, we rarely get beaten by much. Certainly not last season. This season we've had rough end of the stick a few times. So I'm concerned about the midfield. You can play. It's funny. I saw a few people saying sit back and play on the break. I think that's probably right, because that's not our game. We'd be wanting to sit back and play on the break as well. So I think you'll get more success if you've got a Bruno playing and you're sitting back and you're playing through our midfield with 1 or 2 parts. There's only 2 of them, and they're not that great as far as sort of control goes. They're erratic. There's a mistake in there any moment. We might see a guy called Ryan Yates playing there because of that, which wouldn't surprise me. I don't know whether you remember him, but he's highly competitive. And typically when we play away from home and he plays, we do a lot better. So he plays in the difficult games to kill the games. So I don't know. I think we'll probably do the same thing and try and win it on the wings and be quite gung-ho and go for it. But if you see Yatesy playing instead of one of the wingers and one of them coming on when the other one's knackered, then we'll be more concerned about the midfield, as I am. But so I think we're potentially going to lose the game in the midfield, and we're going to win the game on the wings.
I've got to be honest, that fills me full of cheer, but then I remember the fact that our midfield is virtually non-existent at times and being cut for. I wonder which ones of our invisible midfielders are going to pick the ball up and do that. And then I hear you say about the wings, and I just think, that left back slot is not looking ideal. Andrew, Forest have had to struggle their way through the FA Cup. They've not done it the easy way. They've gone to replays in both games, penalties in the one against Bristol City. It's been a tough one for them, but they've worked hard to get there. They're also in a situation this season where they've scored 19 of their Premier League goals at home. We've only scored 17 of ours away from home. So you could argue that their scoring form is a little bit better. And as if to annoy us even more, they've managed to score 7 goals in the first 15 minutes, which is the 3rd highest in the league. This petrifies me, if I'm brutally honest with you. But I kind of want you to also touch on, first of all, how you think we can get past Forest. We played them twice now. We must have a blueprint for how they play. What do you think we need to do to get through them? And I also want you to come back on this thing that Stu has been talking about. NT, I completely agree with what NT said here, which is I know the money from Champions League qualification is huge for us considering our financial situation, but top four is out of our hands completely now. I think I might actually prefer a trophy than top four. I've kind of hit that point as well. I'm not convinced we're gonna make top four as it stands, and I just think 4 one-off games and a trophy might just be better than that permanent nightmare that is that everlasting hope that, you know, the thing that we have as England fan where we have a terrible time, but no matter what happens, whenever a major tournament comes around, we sit there and go, this could be the year, even though it hasn't been the year for almost 60 now, over 60, sorry. So what do you reckon? 2 things to touch on there. How can we get past Nottingham Forest? And as I just said, what do you think about Stu's little outburst there that maybe we just play the under-21s and don't worry too much about the FA Cup?
Just in how the game where we can win the game, I think, like Matt said about Forest on the wings, I think it's the same in the case of United as well on the wings. I mean, if Ten Hag makes the check, if he puts McTominay up top and then puts Rashford to the left and then Garnacho to the right, because I mean, game against Forest back in the end of December, Garnacho was probably, looking back on that game, was probably one of our better players, and I mean, he provided a lot more than Anthony did in that game, and Garnacho was the key in getting us the equaliser with his assist for Rashford as well. So it could be the case on the wings as well. And I'm just thinking we've got to be wary defensively as well. We still got our weaknesses as, you know, frailties as well. Even though, you know, yesterday just, you know, highlighted them even more. I mean, even before those games where we were winning, you know, we're just papering over the cracks. You know, we could easily be scoring goals, but we're allowing goals to go in against us, and which we've got to stop doing, because I mean, compared to last season, you know, we were grinding out results without conceding many goals, and this season we just, as I say, we've been letting you know, records tumble away. So, but I mean, I think for Forest they're going to go very much on the attack, because they've got, I don't think they've got much to lose. It's like they'll win, they're going to get through. If they don't, then they've got the league to focus on and keeping themselves out the relegation zone. And hopefully, you know, it depends on that FFP and the points deduction whether they end up in there or not. So I just think it's the wings for me as well. I think that's going to be the key. But also, one player I think United have got to just be wary of is Morgan GibbsWhite. He sort of was a bit of a threat to us in the last game. We're just thinking, you know, if we could just try and stop him a little bit, we might just have a bit more of a chance as well. So, but yeah, in terms of that other point, Champions League and trophy, after yesterday, I was like, oh, our chances are very, very slim. Mathematically, still possible, but just getting the doors, getting, you know, it's closing even more, and we're not keeping it open. I just think it's about slightly ajar at the minute. We're just keeping our foot just barely on, you know, from, you know, closing even further on us. And I just, what would I want to see happen? At the moment, I think the FA Cup, you know, yes, is it going to salvage our season? Yes, it'd be nice to win a trophy, but the way the season's gone, it's been poor. But it'd just be nice to just have something positive at the end of the season. I just think Champions League, we're going to have to rely on Aston Villa and Spurs dropping more points. And yes, I probably can see Spurs dropping points, but Villa, and before they lost the last, well, besides yesterday against Forest, before that they lost a few games at home, and I'm just like, Unai Emery's got that side well drilled, and I'm just thinking they can easily go on another run again. So top four is looking more similar, and I just think it'd be nice to get that trophy at the end if we get the FA Cup, and just right the wrong of last season against, because obviously losing to City wasn't nice. It'd just be nice to get back to Wembley, and, you know,
what I will say,
trophy again.
What I will say is I need to throw this out to Mr. Paul Merson. He said the most ridiculous thing I think I've ever heard said on Saturday, where he said, why would Manchester United want to finish fourth and get them to the Champions League? They're not going to win it anyway. Now, whatever way you look at it, there's 4 teams from England, potentially 5, that could go into the Champions League. 4 of them aren't going to win it, even if one of them does. Like, that's like anybody sitting there and saying, why do you want to be in the Champions? Because you just never know. It's a knockout competition. Paul Merson, I think, got completely taken up in the Fulham hype there, and he was getting himself, his true colours showed a little bit there. Silly Paul Merson. So consider this your slap on the wrist. Right, a couple of little things. George Best is quite right to say there's 13 likes at the moment, 20 minimum. So if you haven't liked it yet, please do so. And Vicky says if they score quickly, that'll work for United as they need to go a goal down to play on, which is also a very fair point. Matt, quick question for you that Jarvis has asked. What about you? Are isn't he a destroyer in the midfield? What happened to him? Had high hopes from in the Premier League.
Well, he's a bit of a concern, to be honest. Obviously, our record signing, we spent a lot of money on him, made a big deal about getting him. We got Santos in case we didn't get him and all this kind of stuff. And to be honest, he's been dreadful since he's turned up. He's below the worst possible expectations of what he'd do. Now, he's not a bad player. He's a very good player. But how different is the Dutch League to the Premier League? I think it's been a wake-up call to him, and he's done virtually nothing. He's put in one good tackle and made a couple of passes, basically. And for me, he almost got Steve Cooper the sack single-handedly. Not deliberately, but because he had to get played at the wrong time, and we lost games. We got walked all over. I don't know. They might put him in for this game. He might be fit, and they might put him in, and we might have to see something from him. To be honest, I'm scared shitless about him because he has got to be better than Mangala. If he's better than Mangala, I'll be over the moon, because Mangala was absolutely outstanding player, and we spent more on this guy than we got for Mangala, and we thought that was good business. If we get it, it's the way it's all structured. He could break his leg and we could get him back and have nothing. That could be the outcome. But yeah, he's been very disappointing, but he can only be better than what he's been. He cannot be that bad. He went to AFCON. A guy from Hull got picked over him by the end of the tournament, though, as well. So, it's not encouraging at this point, but there's a good player in there. I personally think his mentality is the issue, because he looks like he's scared stiff. I've seen Ryan Yates play games where he doesn't want the ball, he's out of his depth. If he gets his head right, he could be a great player, but he's a mile away from it at the moment. But personally, I think they should have seen that, not put him in or not put him in as much. But because we spent so much money on him, you can't have a guy like that sitting out matches. Even as it is, though, he's gone off to AFCON. He's missed a game or two since. He might miss more games. I don't know how bad this injury is. And if we put him in at the pointy end of the season, we might end up paying the ultimate cost, relying on someone who hasn't done it before, hasn't done anything in the shirt, but just cost a load of money when it comes to the crunch time, rather than someone like Yatesy, who you know what you're going to get from. So yeah, Sangare's a bit scary. We'll give you a good game though. So I don't know about you guys, but I think this game could go either way. I think we're just as likely to win as you are, sort of thing. Again, normally that wouldn't be the case, but you're quite vulnerable and we're quite competitive and we're at home and we have to start doing something. And like you say, we might want it more than you. So I think it will be a kind of close game. We could lose 3-0. We could win 3-0. We're probably going to get beaten. But I think don't take it lightly, I'll
have a think about that, Matt, because we are going to ask that is going to be your next question. But just before we ask that question of all three of you, Vicky has, as ever, come out with the question of the night for the United fellas. So here we go. What was your favourite Manchester United single that they did for the FA Cup? She's picked No One Can Move like the Red Tribe did. I was always a fan of the Status Quo song, Come On You Reds. I quite enjoyed that one. What about you two? Andrew, Stu, which one were you buying on CD or vinyl in your case, Stu?
It's probably
no.
It's the one Vicky mentioned, that was the one I bought on CD, so no one can move like the red drive do. So 96, final against Liverpool. Yeah, so
It's not a patch on the Aussie Ardiles one though, is it? That's the epic.
Favorite ever FA Cup goal was 79 when fucking hell, I completely forgot. Got his name. I've got me school thoughts.
Yeah.
Coming on the phone. Sammy McElroy sliding through to make it 2-2 before Sunderland went up and popped one in to make it 3-2. But that's my favourite ever FA Cup goal. Norman Whiteside in '85 was close second with his bender against Everton. So those are my two favourite goals.
Oh, there you go. Vicky's telling me off here. It's not my fault he's older than
Thank
me.
you. You tell him, sweetheart. You tell him.
It's incredibly rare that I have somebody on that's older than me on the show here. And to be fair, I had lots of vinyl as well. So, and to be fair, vinyl's really in now. So I might.
Vinyl's back. Vinyl is back. It's really expensive though. Vinyl's gone. Expensive.
So there we go. Right, we're going to go around then. So Matt, you've had your thinking time, my friend. What do you think the score is going to be on Wednesday?
Well, I've got to say we're going to beat you. I can't sort of say otherwise, can I really? So let's say 2-1. Let's stick my neck out and say 2-1. We're scoring goals. We'll be competitive. Like you say, do we want to do it? What's more important? The league's more important, but Nuno picked strong teams for the earlier rounds and we couldn't beat lower league teams. The cup's a funny thing, isn't it? So we'll be motivated. We always like playing against Man U, and we've got the rough end of the stick despite your FA Cup, stats. Since we've been back in the Premier League, we got beaten comfortably every time, apart from last time. So let's say 2-1. Let's say 2-1. So that's always the classic prediction as well, isn't it, really? Everyone always says 2-1.
There we go. All right, so 2-1 Rush says to United, though. Stu, what do you reckon?
Well, despite my reticence of the game and my willingness to forego the FA Cup, because you have to bear in mind that Champions League, however far or close we are, it's the new format and it's fucking worth millions to us. And I know the Mr. Ratcliffe will want his fair share, and so he should. But I actually think, depending on what happens, sorry, Matt, I think we'll probably win 2-0, which I know is strange because of what I talked about just recently. But I think Harry Maguire's turned his corner big time now. He scored a poacher's goal on Saturday. Now, Andrew almost fell out of his seat and onto the next row when Maguire scored, because the guys know I'm a huge fan of Maguire. Absolutely huge fan. I think he's a great defender. He's my type of defender. And your big striker, Wemney, whoever you pronounce it.
A few different.
Maguire loves playing against strikers of that nature. He's big and strong, and he needs 7 chances. But we had Andy Cole who needed 7 chances to pop the ball in the back of net. But he always found the time to pick the right one. But for whatever reason, I just think we will win 2-0. But I would stand by my original statements. I think we've got to concentrate on the league. We can't afford any kind of injury on Wednesday night. We just can't. So,
okay. NT saying he just hopes it doesn't go to extra time. To Olympus.
Yeah.
So we shall see. Jennifer's not a fan of the cup songs, well, they do, they do last quite long. Depends how you look after them, really. Andrew, what about you? What's the score going to be?
As I said earlier, I think we can score goals, but we can allow goals to be, we can concede them as well. So I can see us conceding, because I think Forest will. I think that first 15 minutes of the game is going to be key. So let's say, but I just think the way our defence is at the moment, we're just not quite in sync at the moment. So I just think we're going to concede, but I'm going to go the classic 2-1, and it's going to be in our favour. So hopefully, we're coming out the right result of it. But hopefully, we do it in 90 minutes, because we can't be forward in extra 30 minutes of extra time or even penalties. But I hope we do it in the 90, and it's hopefully 2-1 to us, getting back for the same scoreline back in December.
I did forget to say, Barry, I think Varane will score the winning goal with a header at the corner.
You really are just fucking up today. It's
That's how you
outrageous.
do. Hey, that's how you do it. That's how you do it, guys.
No, I'm not a fan of the sucking up shit. You know this by now. NT here. I love this idea that you put the CD on and your mum didn't realise until it was halfway through the repeats. That's the sort of thing I would do. Very well played. And excellent advice here for Jennifer. Just stick your CDs in the freezer and pick them out as needed, which is really good. I did say that was going to be the last one, but Jarvis has asked quite a nice question. So we'll end it on this one because we don't often have this as a question. And actually, I think Jarvis was quite right. I think Nottingham Forest, especially back in the 80s, were an incredible team. They really were. And it's been pointed out the fact two European Cup wins on the bounce, which isn't the easiest thing to do. I can't think of many English teams, if any, that have done that. I think Aston Villa, did they do it at one point?
No, they only got one.
So there you go. So only club probably to do it.
Liverpool did it, didn't they? Liverpool did it before us, I think.
There you go, Baz. Just look at that comment. That's why you.
Yeah, I know. I'm not bringing it up because it's going to make your head bigger. Yeah, I think I'm going to go my favourite Forest player, Roy Keane, because that way I can play on the channel.
Do you know who I like? Do you know who I like?
Nice and quick. What are you going for? Go on, Stu.
I like Gary Charles. Your little right back. He was one hell of a tenacious right back. I liked him. There's just something about him. He was quick, wasn't he? Jesus Christ, was he quick?
Ian Wone's a nice guy. Yeah, he's a good player.
Ian Wone from Rush. Kenny Burns, Jennifer says. Andrew?
Thinking about Premier League 90s. Yeah, like Steve Stone as well. He was a player you had as well.
You had a good keeper, Crossley, didn't you? He was at United, coming alone to United, Mark Crossley.
Well, that was our second best team, that sort of 96 team. Well, Campbell and Van Hooijdonk. I sponsored Pierre's shirt at that time, actually, when he went on strike. So that's an interesting story. So really nice guy. I used to see him after the game. It was the heyday for him. And then he went off, which was a bit awkward. So when we went to the sponsors evening, we had Marlon Harewood and we had Ian Wright because he was there for a month. So I've got a picture with my son, 2 months old in his cot with Ian Wright in a Forest shirt and everything. So there you go. But yeah, go on.
So who would be your favourite player, Matt?
Well, that's right. Well, Pearce it goes Robbo, Pearce. In a way, though, you never beat Des Walker sort of thing. So I'd like to say Des, but it should be Pearce. But let's say Des. He's still around here. He still could probably play. His wife's a bad cook. He's as thin as anything. And he hasn't put on a pound. And he's a lovely guy. So let's say Des Walker, in case I bump into him in the street.
And Viv Anderson also being mentioned here by Jarvis.
He's a good player.
Some great players.
He did all right for you too.
He did.
He did.
Really Gary Birtles didn't.
No, exactly. No, he lived 2 doors down from me actually at one point. So,
Gary Birtles. Yeah. No, he didn't. I'll tell you, you flattered to deceive for me out of all your players. You never played Premier League era, obviously, but that was like Henry Lansbury. I thought. I thought he could have been a far, far better player than what he turned out to be. You also had a local lad to us here in Shropshire, David Johnson, came from Manchester United's academy.
Yeah. No. Well, I know the Johnsons quite well. And obviously Brennan's done all right. But yeah, their household's an interesting place. Who's the best? Dad or me, when do I go past Dad sort of thing. But Johnson had obviously he scored 20 odd goals in the promotion season with Harewood and stuff, so he did his own little bit. And there's a lot of history with Sheffield United, his injury, and then Brennan scoring the goals to get us up against them and stuff. So it's funny, football goes round and round and you get these strange anomalies and stuff, so you never know. Like I say, it might go back to the old Mark Robbins thing and Ten Hag might do a Fergie or something, or vice versa. Well, someone might head it in your goal tomorrow. He might be out, and you'll be a distant memory, and we'll be ruling for the next 20 years.
When I was 16, all those years ago, on a YTS scheme, David Johnson's family used to live in Newport.
Okay.
So, he used to come into our he used to come into our sports shop when he was 8 or 9, and I think he was in the Manchester United youth at the time, or just about to go to. Manchester United youth. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
he didn't really make it. Got the move to Forest, didn't he? Was he
Yeah,
16? I can't remember
Well,
how old he was.
No, he went through Ipswich and all that, didn't he?
That's it.
Yeah, he was mainly at Ipswich. I always think of him as an Ipswich player, really. And then
No,
we
he was
got
actually
him.
United. Yeah, no, he was
Yeah,
United,
that's right.
yeah.
No, he came from you to begin with, but he kind of made his name at Ipswich and he came here. And
That's
it's funny, you'd see him like when we were in the Championship walking home after the games as we go back to the car, and he'd be so candid talking about the team, you know, this centre half's really good or why they, you know, he's always free with his opinions, and he's a good lad anyway, and he's still around.
Oh, brilliant.
He's just, apart from when he's down in Hampstead now, look at with old Brennan.
Well, there we go. Nice little 5-minute history lesson that we decided to go through there. So,
yeah.
Nice, well, literally exactly that, Jarvis. It's nice to go.
They're the best. They're the best, aren't they, when you talk about memory lane?
Memory lane, indeed. And, of course, NT. Thank you, Matt. Your hubris tomorrow.
Man, you've got to, else there's no point, is there, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's great fun when people come on and say they're going to win. It's worked out quite well for us. The only one that didn't was Lindell, and we all saw what happened there. So here's hope. Listen, it's been a brilliant show. Well done, everybody. Thank you, everybody in the comments. You've been awesome as ever. Andrew, excellent to have you back on again. And Stu, of course, to have you back here as well. Also joyful. Matt, just a little opportunity for you to shout out what on earth is Rogues Gallery? What's that got to do with anything?
Oh, well, I lived in the States for a while, came back and actually had an app and did a bit of artwork for that. And then I had a few of the Forest players, like Matty Cash was one of the first, funnily enough. But it's so long ago, I didn't even know I thought he was Australian for some reason, so not Polish. So I did a bit of artwork for this app. And then Forest actually got me to do the Brian Clough stand. So I did all there's dots, if anyone's ever been in the executive box in the Brian Clough stand, silhouette. So I did that. And I've done various art all around the ground. When we came back to the Premier League, all the training, the Nigel Doughty Academy, I've got stuff up in there. And I did the flag when we got promoted. So we had this secret flag that no one knew about. And, you know, couldn't jinx us getting promoted, and then we got pulled out at the last minute. So there's a little glimpse of my flag on the Sky coverage. So, so I just fallen into it, and probably being at the bottom of the Premier League's bad for business. So if you get relegated, there'll be a small silver lining for me, and another promotion season a year or two later, hopefully. So, you know, we'll see. I struggle on. I've done a few Man Utd things as well. I've got a few Brian Robsons and Cantonars in the catalogue somewhere.
Oh, really? What I'm hearing there is that if we need something for the FA Cup final.
Well, yeah, I've got a class of 92 thing and stuff like that. But, you know, we'll see. But it's mainly Forest. It's mainly Forest. Just everything but Derby. That's it. I draw the line somewhere.
Pop your link in the description and, get, you know, if you orders. Just a nice silver lining for you, Matt. I was subjected to the Notts County a few weeks ago. When I had to go and watch them play Mansfield, it was part of a group of us lads who go out. We do various different things, and it was the lad's birthday, and he chose to take us to County. We did go to Hooters first, though, so that was the only.
I was going to say that's the classic. So you did it properly.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. If you're going to do it probably. We stayed in the hotel just over the bridge. So where Hooters over the bridge to the right. Is it the Jury Inn? Is it or something? We stayed
Could
there.
be. Yeah,
I
think it is.
And then we went across they're doing a load of work, aren't they? But some crossroads or something. And then we headed up to County Ground or whatever. I don't know which way we were going.
It's half falling apart, Nottingham. COVID hit us at the wrong time. We were about to be gentrified, and then COVID hit, so they missed us. Now retail's dead, so it's kind of like
one of those, isn't it?
Yeah,
but, we did have a good time at night out, though. I will say that.
Good. Well, hopefully it's been interesting being back in the Premier League. The whole city has benefited, and obviously, you know, in Mansfield and Notts County at their respective levels have been successful. So it's been a kind of good time for Nottingham, and hopefully we can sort of stay in the Premier League and keep it going for a bit longer.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Well, as Mickey says, you've been awesome. It's been excellent to have you on. So thank you again. As I say, we love on this channel getting our opposition fans on, because it gives us the opportunity to have a proper discussion about both sides of the game. So well done, and by all means go and drop Rose Gallery a follow. Plenty of good things for you to look at there. Well, there we go. Like I say, superb. Thank you, everybody, in the comments. It's been great. If you've been watching this on a replay, hope you enjoyed it. We will be back on Thursday when we will have a little chat about what has happened in this match, and hopefully we'll be a little bit happier than we were after the game yesterday. We shall see. How's it going to go? Are Manchester United going to go out there and plunder the Sheriff of Nottingham, or are they going to do the old Robin Hood and rob from the rich and give to the poor? We'll find out. See you all on Thursday. Good night, then.